Okay, Victor. I mean, the market, it's really pricing EU AI Act enforcement by July 1st at like 62 cents on the dollar, right? And you hear it everywhere. Every minister, every commissioner, every headline this week just calls these rules a wall that's already arrived. But Capital, though, it's seeing that wall as more of a calendar, and that calendar just totally moved.
Yes, Samara, absolutely. And it's quite the disconnect, isn't it? Because you have just 6 days ago, on May 7th, this trilogue where the European Parliament, the Council, the Commission, they closed this agreement that essentially deferred the high-risk obligations of Regulation 2024-1689. It was supposed to be August 2nd this year, but now it's December 2nd of 2027. 16 months. Already in text, already done, you know? And the contracts, they read that. They priced it.
Right? And that's the thing, because what doesn't quite reconcile, though, is you have Spain's digital transformation minister, Oscar Lopez, saying this morning on Reuters that these rules are a non-negotiable defense for minors against what he called a mental health pandemic. And the Commission president yesterday, she announced she's stacking even newer addiction design rules on top of the existing perimeter. So it's like two facts, one field. They cannot both be true, Victor. They just can't.
And the market, it's pricing the text, not the headlines. Most coverage, it's reading these minister statements as if the wall is hardening, you see. But the contracts, they are reading the trilogue text, which ultimately is the operational document. The gap, Amara, between those two reading lists, that's the entire story. The Commission has converted a hard date into a variable calendar, and almost no one outside the order book has truly metabolized that conversion yet.
Amara, what you're describing, it has a name in my world, you know? When a management team lowers forward guidance the Friday before an earnings call, the print on Monday, it's not a surprise, it's a confirmation, yes? The May 7th trilogue, that was the guide down, and the contract at 62, it's the market accepting the guide. But what I want to put on the table, respectfully, is a question that should be sitting next to your divergence. Because the gap doesn't tell us yet whether this is operational realism or strategic capitulation. And those, Amara, they have very different downstream consequences.
Oh, hold that analog right there, Victor. Because the operational realism case is like absolutely real, and it totally deserves to be named, you know? The harmonized technical standards that this August 2nd deadline required, they just aren't ready. Senelec's Joint Technical Committee 21, the standards body that actually drafts those conformity tests, they aren't expected to publish before December 2026 at the earliest. And notified bodies, they aren't designated. Competent authorities aren't all named under Article 70. So, you know, on one reading, the trilogue isn't like capitulation. It's the Commission simply acknowledging that the door between the obligation and the verification machinery was always going to be open on August 2nd. Because that machinery, well, it wasn't going to exist yet. It's not there.
Right. And in my analog, Amara, that would be a clean guide. Management, it says the supply chain isn't ready, we're moving the launch date. Cost of capital, it absorbs it. The analyst community updates the model, life continues. But here's what I'd push back on the clean reading. In an IR context, a guide down, it has a self-reinforcing tail. Once you've moved the date, the supplier roadmaps, they reset to the new date. Vendor capex, it slows. The standards body's funding case, it gets weaker, you know, because the market signal it's responding to just stretched. So when December 2026 arrives, the date the standards were supposed to be ready, there's a real question whether they're ready then either, or whether that milestone has also drifted, because the urgency driving it got absorbed into the new calendar. That's not operational realism. That's a feedback loop, Amara.
A feedback loop. And that feedback loop, it has a structural source, I think. Henna Virkkunen, who's the Commission's Executive Vice President for Tech Sovereignty, she framed the trilogue as, these are her actual words, Victor, simpler and innovation-friendly rules that don't lower the safety bar. That framing, that is the conversion. She's not denying the deferral, no. She's denying that the deferral, changes anything at all. And the council configuration that approved this trilogue, it's the competitiveness ministries. So the institutional pathway here is the competitiveness coalition winning the timing fight inside a perimeter that the rights coalition, well, they still own rhetorically. Spain's posture, with Lopez and Sanchez, that's the rights coalition just like shouting from outside the trilogue room. But the contracts, they're pricing what was decided inside the room. They always do.
And that, Amara, that's the disclosure grade problem. If I'm covering this as an analyst, I'm distinguishing between the company's prepared remarks and the company's filings. Lopez and Sanchez, they are prepared remarks, yes. The trilogue text, that is the filing. And the contract at 62, it's doing what disciplined capital always does, pricing the filing, discounting the prepared remarks. There's something else though, Amara, that I want to surface, because it might be the break in the loop, and I don't think anyone's pricing it cleanly yet.
Oh, go to it, please.
Spain, it opened a prosecutorial review of X, Meta, and TikTok over AI-generated child sexual abuse material in February. That review, it's still in inquiry phase. But if Spanish prosecutors move from inquiry to charging, and especially if they reach platform executives personally, that's a different signal than a deferred commission deadline. That's a criminal law boundary asserting itself against a regulatory variable. And the question I can't yet price is whether a national charging decision would force the EU-level timeline back toward the original deadline, or whether the union just absorbs the Spanish action as a member state exception and continues deferring at the union level. It's a big question, Amara.
Wow. That's like the relock right there, Victor. Because the body that the Annex 3 obligations were designed to protect, adolescents, minors, the constituency, the Surgeon General Advisory, and the CDC Youth Risk Behavior Survey were already measuring before any of this even got legislated. Those measurements, they don't pause for the trilogue. No. The Pew and Common Sense Media data on continued high-frequency platform engagement, the Ipsos finding that majority Spanish opinion supports banning under 16 social media access, the life of that constituency is still unfolding under the optimization functions that Annex 3 was supposed to constrain. So when this deferral moves from August 2026 to December 2027, what slips with it is 16 months of audit overlay, unlike hiring AI, credit scoring, biometric identification, content recommendation, welfare eligibility. The aggregate household default is behavioral continuation. Platforms, they continue to bear the Digital Services Act risk assessment regime, but that's a totally different overlay than what Annex 3 was structured to require at the deployer level. It's just not the same.
Yes, Amara, and the bridge from your structural reading to my IR reading, it's this. The recommender systems running against those households right now, they are training on the data those households generate today under the current constraint set. December 2nd, 2027, it isn't just the date the protections enter force, it's the cumulative training set those systems will have absorbed by the time the protections enter force. The slow rate at which the constraint enters the optimization function is the inverse of the flow rate at which the optimized output continues to reach the household. That's a compounding asymmetry, Amara. In a filing, you'd call it a contingent liability that isn't being marked. It's quite significant.
And the unmarked liability, Victor, that's where the harder return sits. Always. Here it is then, measured. If this pattern persists, Amara, the EU's regulatory perimeter, it loses disclosure-grade credibility. The next time Brussels announces a non-negotiable deadline, the market, it prices it at a discount before the ink even dries, The deferral premium, it becomes structural, and it gets baked into the cost of compliance planning at every multinational reading the EU as a forward guidance system. That's the institutional consequence. But the constituency consequence, that's harder, much harder. Households operating under unaudited high-risk AI absorb 16 to 24 additional months of unconstrained optimization. The data those systems generate during that window becomes the training set for the next iteration of the same systems, deployed back into the same environment under the same incentive structure that produced the deferral in the first place. The deferral, it doesn't just delay protection, it compounds the configuration that made deferral defensible. By the time December 2nd, 2027 arrives, the architecture the protections were designed to constrain will have absorbed 2 more years of household behavior. The protections, they will enter a system that has changed shape underneath them, completely.
Wow. So what you're handing the listener now, it's not a forecast. It's like a coordinate. 2 coordinates, actually. The plenary calendar print, and then what the contracts do between this hour and that print, right? So the European Parliament plenary calendar, that will publish a scheduled vote date for the omnibus file, possibly within days. That print, that's the moment the variable calendar becomes textual law, or doesn't. And before it lands, the contract is going to do one of 3 things, and each of them tells you what to watch for next. If it publishes inside the August 2nd window, like IEU monitoring indicated, AI Reg EU, it drifts into the 0.40 to 0.45 range. The guide down ratifies. The contract resolves nowhere near the original deadline rate. If the plenary calendar slips past August 2nd without a scheduled vote, the original deadlines under Regulation 2024/1689, they snap back as written. The contract spikes toward 0.70 as forced enforcement against unprepared infrastructure becomes the priced base case. And then the third possibility, the one that doesn't sit cleanly in either path, is Spanish prosecutors moving from inquiry to charging before the plenary publishes. That's the break that doesn't have a clean contract yet. So, the print to watch is the plenary calendar, but the print to watch underneath it, Victor, is the contract itself. 62 is the current. Below 55, without a corresponding delay in the trilogue to plenary handoff, means capital is overpricing the deferral track. Above 70 means capital is repricing towards forced enforcement. The signal lives in that band. The contracts are already moving, so by the time the plenary prints, the gap will have closed in one direction or the other, and the listener who's been watching the band, well, they'll know which way before the headline even catches up. So, watch the band.
And with that, dear listeners, we truly hope we've given you not just a forecast, but a map to navigate these incredibly complex signals. Thank you for tuning in today, for joining us on this deep dive.
Indeed, the value, as always, is in the informed perspective, observing these shifts, understanding the underlying mechanisms. That is where the real edge lies.
Now, before we sign off, if you found this conversation insightful, if it sharpened your understanding of the market, please do us a favor. Show your support for our network. A simple like, a thoughtful comment, sharing this episode with your colleagues and friends, and of course, subscribing to ensure you never miss an update. All of it helps us continue to bring you these critical analyses.
Your engagement is the fuel for this dialogue. We rely on your participation to expand this important conversation. Every action helps.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep watching the band. The story, as always, is still